Tem um momento na carreira que precisamos dar um passo além. É hora de fazer uma pós-graduação. Só que muitas vezes o custo pesa no bolso, inviabilizando tudo. Com a pós-graduação do Senac, você não tem esse problema. Cursos com até 50% de desconto e muito mais tempo para pagar. TCC opcional, modelo flexível com aulas presenciais e online e alguns cursos com apenas 12 meses de duração. Não tem mais desculpa, hein? Saiba mais em sp.senac.br/pós-graduação.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, S-H-O-W, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Welcome back. Greetings. It's Eric Erickson here. I am suspending the phone line here because I want to it's my show, doggone it. And I want to take a personal moment to just talk to you for a minute. And it'd be rude of me to keep you on hold while I chat with you, because in less than an hour now, when I get to 3 o'clock, I have to go move my daughter into her college dorm. And I don't know, I'm not even 50 yet. How am I old enough to have a kid in college? It's wild to me. But serious note here for all of you. As almost every single one of you who listens to this program knows, in 2016, my wife was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, which she still has, and was given 2 years to live. They say she still has it because she has made it way longer than the 2 years they gave her. She did not think at the time, nor did any of us think, although my kids were really too young to, I think, process it, that she wouldn't be here. I mean, when my wife was in first grade, her mother died of breast cancer. And so she knew what it was like to not have your mother there while you walked across the stage for high school graduation. Now, her dad remarried a wonderful human being, my mother-in-law, Linda. In fact, when we got married, I was still practicing and did the adoption of my mother-in-law and my wife, who is her mom. And they love each other dearly. And so she was there, but it also, there was something there. And my wife was absolutely just overwhelmed at the idea that she wouldn't be there for Evelyn's high school graduation. And yet it happened. And I tried not to cry on the air that day, and she was a blubbering mess. And she doesn't mind me saying so. I mean, it was a moment. And honestly, so our son is now in 10th grade, and 3 years. Maybe we can pull this off and she'll see both of them cross the stage, good Lord's willing. But today, we're moving our oldest into a college dorm. I remember when my mom and my dad was working, he would work 30 days overseas, still offshore in Dubai and the Persian Gulf, and then come home for 30 days. So he was gone when I moved into college. My mom came over with me. We stayed with some friends. And then I moved in, and it was kind of anticlimactic. I moved into the dorm, bought stuff for my dorm, moved in, and that was that. I think my mom wound up flying home. We had driven over in the car they had gotten me, a 1984 Buick Regal in pristine condition. It had been I wanted an SUV, and they were like, nope, not going to get you an SUV. Got me this car. It was a 1984 model. Now, this was 93 when I was moving to the dorm, but the car had been in some dude's garage and had like 10,000 miles on it. It was in great condition. Got me through college. In fact, I remember my oldest sister, I don't know if she remembers, they got to be listening right now. My oldest sister She laid across the back seat. She's, look, you can lay across the back seat in this car. The look of horror on my parents' face. Oh, man. And now here it is. It's my turn as a parent for my kid to go to college. She's not going far. She's going to my alma mater, Mercy University. I moved 10 hours from home. My kid's moving 10 minutes from home. We are throwing her out. We're putting her in the dorm. My son wants a pool table in her room. Now, you need to understand, I am very, very blessed and fortunate that my kids get along exceedingly well. They didn't necessarily always do that, but they get along well. They are each other's best friend, I would say. My kids are not people. Given the thing that has happened over time with our family, and I mean, people showing up at our house to threaten us and them getting harassed in stores because of their dad. My kids aren't people. It takes them much to get out of the house. My son has a friend from school, and he invited the kid over yesterday because the kids, they just moved. The internet's not been put in his house. They need to do homework. And my son was like, can we invite him over so he can do homework? And we're like, yes. My kids never want other people in the house. It was nice for him to be able to open the door for a friend who needed to use the computer and the internet at the house. I bring all this up because I want to make a couple of points, and I'm thinking about my buddy Steven. Steven is my trainer. My son, now in 10th grade, I might be oversharing this. I'm probably oversharing at this moment. My apologies to my family. They don't listen, though. So my kid, he likes soccer. He likes tennis. He's been going to the gym off and on. And it was the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. He saw a picture of that kid. And he's been really enthusiastic about going to the gym since. And he finally said the whole reason he wants to go to the gym is he does not want to be a rail-thin, mulleted loser like that kid. He felt like he needed to go to the gym and be more active. And it was the picture of that kid that inspired him. He was like, I don't want to wind up like that, living in y'all's basement and rail thin and mentally ill. So let's go to the gym. So we went to the gym 3 days this week. We were supposed to go 2. I was supposed to be in Atlanta yesterday. It got canceled. And so he was like, we should go to the gym. I wish we hadn't. It was miserable. But Steven's the trainer. He's a great guy. And his wife is going to give birth any day now. Did you know that kids who have a good relationship with their father are 5 times more likely to go to college than to go to jail? And kids who have a bad relationship with their father are 7 times more likely to go to jail than to college. You are vastly more likely to go to jail than to succeed in life if you have a bad relationship with your father. Not to get theological on you, but it's always struck me in Genesis, Noah's sons are allowed on the ark, not because of anything they did, because their father was found righteous in God's eyes. Dads matter. Now, I say this stuff around Father's Day, but you'll have to just forgive me. I'm a little overwhelmed here at the idea of moving my kid into a college dorm and out of the house and becoming an adult, and we can't take care of her. We're not responsible for her, and yet she still lives off of us and is on our health care insurance, and yet there's this detachment. So she was talking about all the things she wants us to do, and here's this for this, and here's this, and we got to be here on Saturday, we got to be here on Sunday, and we got to be there on Monday. It's like, no, we're not going to convocation with you on Monday. I'm not getting out of work for that. That's not for us. And she's like, why aren't you going to convocation with me? It's like, Evelyn, convocation is when the college year starts. And it's the moment at which you become the adult. And we don't hold your hand anymore. You go into your new environment. It's the moment the brainwashing and indoctrination attempts begin with your college professors. And you got to hold firm and hold fast. She'll be without us. Now, of course, she'll be able to come home whenever she wants to come home. And I'm sure her brother's going to want to hang out on college campus. They got a Chick-fil-A on the college campus now. He's going to want to be there. And a barbecue joint. They didn't have that. She's going to my alma mater. We didn't have all the stuff when I was there. We had a Subway and a little grill. And you get a burger with bacon, and then you'd have an upset stomach the rest of the night. The cafeteria was not nearly as cool as her cafeteria. I'm just amazed at the amenities these days. But nonetheless, it's happening this afternoon, and it's just wild to me that my wife is going to be there with us, and so I want to thank all of you for your prayers. It's been a wild ride. I never expected to do this. Here I am on the radio across the country. I was a lawyer. We had our first, who's going to college, when I was still practicing law. And it was about that time that I decided to stop practicing law. It's been a wild ride. I never expected to sit behind a microphone every day and talk to strangers who've become friends through the ether. I never expected to have a wife with stage 4 lung cancer, to have that sword of Damocles over our head every 3 months. In fact, on Tuesday, she's got her next scans. We assume everything will be fine. We hope. We pray. Never expected to have 2 great kids, one of whom is headed to college. What a wild ride this has been. And you guys have been such a part of it. And yeah, I'm sorry. I should be devoting a segment to news and not me. But I really want to thank you. You, so many of you. Now, a lot of you are new. A lot of you are just getting to know me. A lot of you are like, man, I wish somebody else was on the radio. I know, because I get the hate mail. But y'all have been around for this ride, and I really do. I thank you for your prayers. I thank you for being here, for your notes of encouragement. Most of you, you know who you are, for your notes of encouragement. And I thank the radio stations for putting me on, who are right now listening to this regretting having made that decision. But it's just, this is a milestone. I think I'm officially old now. I think Philip really can, despite his copious amounts of more gray hair than I have, being much younger than me, he can officially now start making the jokes that I really am old. I'm not even 50, and I've got a kid in college in a dormitory. And it's a nice one, too, compared to my dorm at the same college. And when I was there back in the day, my dorm was like the bleeding edge dorm, and today it's the rat hole on campus. But it's going to be weird. It's going to be weird to go home tonight, to turn off the lights, to lock the doors, and realize one of the bedrooms is empty. And it's, from here on out, going to be mostly empty. More often empty than not. And then at some point, really empty. As our oldest comes into her own, off to college, off to life, at some point off the family payroll, and off into new horizons. And I hope that she has a life like I've been blessed to have. One full of surprises, where the plans she makes aren't God's plans and his plans turn out better than her plans, as has happened in my life. And I hope at some point she'll get married and she'll have kids, and that my wife will still be there. And you guys will still be with us praying along the way.
Ideal mesmo para o mundo atual seria fazer o ensino médio junto com o curso técnico, certo? É no Senac que o aluno tem autonomia de verdade, formação cidadã, foco na diversidade, preparação para o Enem, material didático sem taxas e muito mais. Na real, tem tudo que você precisa para se sentir preparado para a vida. Seja para entrar no mundo do trabalho ou te ajudar a decidir o que fazer na faculdade. Quer saber? Senac. Vem comigo! Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino-médio-técnico.
Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson across the nation. While we're in this melancholy mood, can we talk about Matthew Perry for just a minute? I'm assuming you guys have heard the news. What a sad story. If you're unfamiliar, I assume most of you are familiar with Matthew Perry, who was one of the stars of Friends. Now, he did some movies after that, but really struggled with drug addiction. Wrote about it, and had, it seemed by accounts of his friends and those who knew him, for a time embraced sobriety, but struggled with depression and began ketamine therapy. Ketamine, a drug, it's actually a popular, among the rich set, ketamine is a popular narcotic, and he, in doing depression therapy, maybe as an inroad back into drugs, or I don't know, but got addicted to it. And a pile of people have now been arrested for fueling his addiction, and it is just tragic to read the indictment of these people. One of whom was living with him. So there apparently was he had a sober companion who lived with him for some time. And the sober companion threw up her hands and said, "I'm done," and walked away. And he moved someone else in with him, and that person was an enabler fueling the addiction, along with doctors, drug dealers, and others procuring ketamine. So in the indictment and in the statements from the DA, these people were able to buy $12 vials of drugs and resell to him for $55,000. And in the text messages, mocking him as a moron for being willing to pay that much and not realizing how much cheaper he could get it elsewhere. And the drug dealer herself saying, listen, he's really addicted. We might need to be careful. And the person who administered one of the doses documenting how his blood pressure spiked and then his heart rate dropped, and yet they continued to fuel the addiction because he was willing to pay them obscene amounts of money. These people need to go to, assuming this stuff is true. And like, for example, so the drug dealer, after the news breaks that he's dead, sends a message to the group chat with the doctors and the in-house live-in guy with Perry, who was taking care of him, saying, we got to delete all the text messages, Well, they were able to uncover those text messages. And it just paints an abusive trail of people willing to take advantage of a guy with an addiction who had a lot of money. And this story just plays itself out. You know, I am really blessed. I'll tell you guys, you know, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not super famous. I'm not really a celebrity, except in the Atlanta area, I get recognized. I get yelled at while I'm peeing at the airport. Y'all all joke about me wanting to fly private. That really is why I love Delta. But my goodness. All that being said, I've been really fortunate to be surrounded with a great group of guys, and Candace, Charlie, Philip, Jim, the folks at my station. And I when I talk to, like, I know some really famous celebrities who you would all know, and it really is the difference in who you surround yourself with and the options. But I mean, even me at my level, I've been offered drugs, and it's absurd to me. Of course I turned them down, but I mean, the temptations get there as your fame and income rise, regardless of where you are. And sad to see a guy like that dead, in large part because of the people he surrounded himself with. You know, even in work, you got to surround yourself with great folks like Vision Computer. If you call them at 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com, they are legit. If you've got a small business and you can't afford the in-house tech staff, Vision Computers can take that on for you for $179 a year per computer. And if you call them and tell them I sent you, you get a better deal. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. Your employees don't have to be great at their computers to be good at their jobs or great at their jobs. Vision Computers can. And as your employees in productivity increases, your bottom line improves, and they rely on Vision. They get a special phone number they can call, 15 seconds or less. Vision takes care of them, gets them their answer, can remote in, do email support, printer support, whatever you need. 404-COMPUTE, visioncomputers.com. Let Vision Computers be your in-house tech support. Saves you money, so they're not on your payroll. $179 a year. Visioncomputers.com or 404-COMPUTE. Tell them I sent you, get an even better deal.
Esse podcast é um oferecimento de Samsung Galaxy AI. E sabe o que mais ele te oferece? Que tal uma nova maneira de buscar na internet a partir de fotos ou do que está na sua tela? Fácil, fácil. Viu? Circulou? Encontrou. Ou quem sabe um assistente de notas, para gravar reuniões, transcrever gravações e organizar, produzindo resumos eficientes. Tem tanta coisa que o Samsung Galaxy AI pode fazer por você. Clique aí no banner para descobrir o que. Galaxy AI, a inteligência artificial nas suas mãos.
All right. I put this off as long as I can. We might as well discuss. Next week, Democratic National Convention. Now, occasionally this makes news, like, for example, their elimination of God from their platform, references to God, all that sort of stuff, as the Democratic Party moves further and further left, becomes more secular, more atheist. It is just interesting to me how they have deleted God, openly hostile towards the divine, and of course to parents and things like that. But it's going to be a 4-day popularity show on television. MSNBC, which did not go to the Republican convention, they actually used a LED wall. It made it look like they were on a balcony looking down over the convention, giving live coverage. They actually weren't. They're going to go, of course, to the Democratic National Convention, and it'll be a love fest. Fox, unlike MSNBC, is going to both of them. I will continue my tradition of not going to the conventions. I don't like to go to conventions. They used to make me go, and now that I've got clout, my friend Rush Limbaugh, yes, I'm going to name drop my friend Rush Limbaugh, told me it was a waste of time. There was no reason to go. Now, he, of course, would get mobbed in ways the rest of us would not get mobbed, and he wasn't a huge crowd person. He was way more introverted than I think people believe. But also, he said that you're not going to really make a lot of news there. All the news that is made is going to be available through TV feeds and wire services, so there's just no point in actually hanging out at a convention to be mobbed by people, get sick from the germy people, and not actually learn anything new. And his job was not to, and my job is not to be some rah-rah cheerleader. This gets me back to that William guy yesterday. It's like, you're not allowed to criticize. All you can do is fluff up the nominee. That's not my job. I am not a state propaganda network. I am not MSNBC. My job is to tell you what's going on and to give you the timely news, and in large part because, with the rise of podcasters, I believe part of my job is to cover the timely news as it happens so that you're actually tuning in live, maybe in delay. I mean, some of you're listening right now on stations where I'm running delay, but it's still kind of timely, as opposed to, you may listen next week on podcast and everything is completely out of date. My bias is to do the news and to do it live. And there's no need for me to be in Chicago. Also, the riots. So, yesterday I'm getting hate mail from Democrats for the audacity of suggesting maybe the Iranians are holding their fire so as not to cause havoc at the Democratic National Convention. Now, listen, the way to prove me wrong is Iran attacks Israel this weekend. But I'm sneaky suspicion that it might be a Thursday, our time, Thursday night, or into Friday attack after the Democratic National Convention next week. We'll find out. I am willing to be wrong. I honestly hope that I'm wrong. I have never wanted to be so wrong in my life because I think it would be a terrible sign to see that the Iranians actually are taking into account the American presidential election and their desire to get Kamala Harris elected. But I'm kind of thinking I'm right. Hopefully I'm not. There are still going to be protests, though. Democratic operatives have already admonished the media to focus on the convention, not the protesters. Iran, has paid many of the protesters. The CIA itself and the national intelligence apparatus are telling us Iran is investing in these protesters, that there's a right to speech, there's a right to protest, but many of the violent protesters in the country are actually being paid by Iran. Now, tangent, but it's a relevant tangent. So a federal judge in California has ruled that the University of California, Los Angeles, and anti-Semitic protesters cannot block Jewish students from portions of the campus. They were trying to block Jews from the library and other buildings. So Jewish students sued, and a federal district court in Los Angeles, of course, ruled that it is unconstitutional to block Jews from portions of public campuses. That's constitutional law 101. I mean, the First Amendment. People have the freedom of religion, and Congress shall make no law establishing a religion. If you establish a perimeter by which students of a particular religion are prohibited from campus, you are affirming other religions. That is a violation of the First Amendment. And yet, what has the University of California system decided to do? Appeal the decision. Yes, they're appealing the decision that would prohibit that would say Jews can't be prohibited from campus. The state of California wants to prohibit Jews from. It's insane to me. But this is the world in which we live, filled with anti-Semites. So the question is, how badly do the protests get out of control? And you know and I know, if Iran attacks Israel before that convention, there are going to be an overwhelming number of people showing up to protest the Israeli response, because Israel has already said, we will launch a disproportionate response to make sure you can never do this again. So maybe Iran is scared. That, by the way, you should know that's the official spin. The official spin is that Iran understands that if it goes after Israel, Israel will burn the ships. That is, they will put men in planes to go to Iran without enough fuel to get home, to blow up nuclear facilities. And then if the planes crash and the fighter pilots die, okay, maybe they can divert to India and land there. Or maybe, just maybe, they will find some sympathetic Arab state, the UAE, where they can land their planes, refuel, and go home. We don't know. I strategically, logistically, I'm not sure how any of that would work. But Israel is saying, you come after us, we will give you so utterly a disproportionate response that you will never be able to wage war again. So maybe that has deterred Iran. Why would it then deter Hezbollah? I don't know, because Hezbollah has moved 100,000 armaments close to the border. It does seem to me that given the nature and geography of Lebanon, you're clustering that many weapons together. You target where the weapons clusters are, they all blow up. They don't get to Israel. But, I mean, this thing is playing out. This thing is playing out in real time. We'll see how this works. That being said, I think the biggest news that's going to come out of the Democratic Convention will be the protesters and the level of protest. Because Tim Walz, as the Democratic vice presidential nominee, is a progressive from a state that has embraced their Muslim immigrant population. Ilhan Omar, the Islamic clerics, Tim Walz, they're all friends. That, to me, is very notable. Joe Biden's role is also going to be a pass-the-torch moment. They are absolutely going to make it a generational shift, and the Democrats are going to pick back up. You know, Nikki Haley said, and I thought it was interesting, the Trump team has not punched back. They're now trying to rally everyone together. They know they don't want to punch back Nikki Haley. Some of Trump's base wants to, but the issue here is an old comment from Nikki Haley back in February on the debate stage. Nikki Haley said in the debate back in February that whichever side tossed their 80-year-old first would win. The Democrats tossed their 80-year-old first. The Democrats this coming week in Chicago are going to try to make this a generational movement. That there is now a public shift and an embrace of a defining younger movement of candidate to become president of the United States. They're going to do everything possible to make that play. And so there will be a pass-the-torch moment. You will see unity. The Clintons are going to speak. Grand feminist Bill Clinton will speak. Hillary Clinton will speak, allegedly. Barack Obama will be there and speak. And Joe Biden will be there to pass the torch to his vice president, who, by the way, he's still bitter. If he goes off unscripted, it could be hilarious. He's still very bitter and has made it known he's still bitter, but he's going to rally around Kamala Harris. He's going to pass the torch. I played that audio earlier in the show where he says she's not going to distance herself from Bidenomics. If anything, she's going to double down on socialism. It's going to be probably the furthest left the Democrats have ever gone in terms of orchestrating a convention. Economic policy, social policy, and the like. I'm sure we'll have our parade of transgenders and feminists who tell their proud abortion stories. You know that monologue play, the V word. I don't really want to say it on radio. The V word play. That's what we're going to get from the Democrats as they turn an entire convention into a pep rally for abortion and transgenderism and socialism. The media will give them fawning coverage. The folks at MSNBC will adore the fawning coverage. Kamala Harris, because of the Trump team's failures to define her early, will get to define herself. The Trump team, of course, I think Trump finally hit on the message that her day one was 3.5 years ago. Why didn't she do this stuff? And she's embracing Maduro-style economics. I think the Democrats have forgotten that the Hispanic shift in 2020 and 2022 came from Hispanic voters who had fled socialism. You get those Hispanic voters who fled socialism rallying to Donald Trump because of Kamala Harris's Nicolas Maduro-like politics. They could be in for a real surprise come Election Day with the Hispanic shift in this country towards the right. It's a demographic in play, not to be taken for granted. It has way more in common with the working class in this country than the upper echelon academic white elite in this country who are voting Democrat. There could be some real surprises coming up. Democrats can't take it for granted. Their messaging needs to be pristine. By the way, I don't know if you saw this, but they have raised the wall's name on Harris's signs. It was squinched in. It was so compact that any illegal immigrant could climb over the walls, but they've decided to make it a little bigger on the sign. They did some adjustment. It was clearly a rush job. It was not a good-looking sign. All that gets rolled out next week in Chicago. And again, the thing I'm looking for is how bad are the riots, number one? And number two, does Iran attack Israel before the Democratic Convention? And if not, how soon after the Democratic Convention does Iran attack? And let's be honest, if it's another couple of weeks, then no, I don't really know that you can tie the two together. But if Kamala Harris accepts that nomination on Thursday night and on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday after the convention, all hell breaks loose in the Middle East, you're damn right it was coordinated to make sure that it did not blow up in the Democrats' face because the Israelis, or rather the Iranians, have a vested interest in Kamala Harris getting to the White House, and they did not want to provoke a violent street clash in Chicago. Yeah, I'm absolutely willing to go there right now and say, if Iran does do this after Harris gets the nomination pretty soon thereafter and doesn't do it before, then yeah, there is totally a coordinated response to advance the Democratic agenda. Okay, I've run on enough here. It's time for me to tell you, with all the economic turmoil out there and bank collapses and the like, you might want to consider Swiss America. Swiss America has been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years. They've been warning people about a secret war on cash for some time. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash from the secret war on cash, well, you need to get their free report. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. Swiss America can educate you on protecting your assets in their shocking report, The Secret War on Cash. It takes less than 15 minutes to read. It can save your retirement and finances. It tracks how the government is tracking you through your use of currency. And by the way, it includes digital currency. The Secret War on Cash is growing daily. All you have to do to get this report is call 800-289-2646. You can also text them. What do you text them? My name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K. Just text Eric to 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. Get the free report by calling or texting my name to 800-289-2646. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric. SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Message and data rates may apply. Hello. I wish to state something for the record. There are very few people in this world, among those that I dislike, that I actively root against. I mean, it's not worth it. I'm not a karma believer. I'm a grace and mercy believer. I'm a Christian. And I don't like to wish people ill. I don't like to have ill will towards people. I don't like to hope that someone loses their job. There are very few exceptions to that. Kamala Harris, hope she loses her job in November. Taylor Lawrence of the Washington Post. She's an awful, awful human being, and I wish the worst for her. Now, I know that's the sin coming out of me. I should be praying for this girl. I have a hard time with it. So Taylor Lawrence is the online reporter, the technology columnist. Now, she's a very, very progressive. She was a disruptor at the New York Times, made for a poisonous work environment. She left there, went to the Washington Post. They called her a columnist instead of a reporter, so it gave her some leeway. Now, she was at the White House for a briefing, and she put up a picture in her private feed on Instagram. I don't know if you know this or not. Some of you may not have friends, but you can set up a story feed in Instagram so only your close friends get to see it. So Taylor Lawrence put up a picture of Joe Biden, and it labeled him a war criminal. It was him behind her. She had snapped it at the White House, and a friend added the caption "war criminal," and Taylor Lawrence put it up on Instagram for just her private friends. Well, one of those friends ratted her out. And she tried to claim it was misinformation or disinformation, that it had been altered, that's not how she put it up. 4 people with direct knowledge of the private Instagram story, according to National Public Radio, say, oh no, Taylor put it up. And now the Washington Post is investigating her. Given she's a lib, I doubt she'll be fired, but it would be great if she was. She's a detestable person. What a harpy. She ruins other people's lives, and she relishes the opportunity to ruin people's lives. She's just a horrible human being. And I know, forgive me, grace and mercy and all of that, but she's a terrible human being. She's outed people, she's doxed people to get people harassed, all this stuff. So what's remarkable is Lawrence tried to claim it was a manipulated image, and she clearly lied about it. And she's lied to others about it, and good riddance if she is tossed for doing this. But there's a side note here as well about, so I've got a private friends list. And I'm still somewhat careful about some of the stuff I put on there, because it's not necessarily all of the people there are my actual friends. It's people I know, I enjoy interacting with on social media, but they're not all of them. Like, some of them I've never met in person. Most of them I have, but not all of them. But I can put my more inappropriate stuff there. And yes, if you're listening right now and you're not there, sorry, sucks to be you. It's my best stuff on Instagram. But in cancel culture days, everybody has a friend list these days, where you can have a friend list and you can share your memes that even all of you know. In fact, I know one guy. Who I have mentioned this to him, and he was actually mad at me. He's like, I just don't understand why you're not brave enough to put this on social media. It's like, look, there's some stuff I understand given my position. It would not be appropriate for me to do. And he's like, well, I don't understand that. It's like, well, basically what you're acknowledging is that you're in a position in life where you've got nothing to lose, and you can't tell that there are some things best left between friends. Now, of course, that guy knows what I'm talking about, but the amount of bullying for people is like, no, I have a sense of humor, but I also know the left has angry people, and I can share jokes with friends of mine that I would not necessarily put publicly. Like I did this morning in a group chat. My sense of humor is not for everyone. Nonetheless, I'm always careful. I also go into every meeting these days believing everything is on the record. I never say in off-the-record meeting stuff I wouldn't say publicly, because one, that's kind of my personality anyway. Like I tell you guys, I overshare with y'all. It sometimes gets me in trouble for oversharing with y'all. But I just kind of think if there's no wall between on the record and off the record, well, you're probably better off and safer. She, of course, put this on her private group on Instagram, and it just tells you the caliber of the people she surrounds herself with, but none of them are trying, that 4 of them at least are trying to get her fired. None of my wide range of friends in my private friends group have ever tried to get me fired, but that's the sort of person she is. You guys have a great weekend. Got to go move into a college dorm.